How are you doing so far? Before I go any further, make sure that everybody's doing okay so far. Can you give me I'm still breathing, I'm still alive? Because in Greek, we need to make sure people haven't keeled over and passed away, because that does happen occasionally in Greek. So not everybody makes it. Is everybody still doing okay?
Still good, Pastor.
Still good? Gideon, RR, how you doing? Good?
Good, Pastor.
Pastor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Pastor, maybe someday, if we learn how to read the Greek words, maybe our main problem, what is the meaning of that word? That is another problem naman.
Correct. And to be, again, Jomel, to be very clear, because this is the scope of what we're attempting. It's a good point. When we say learn Greek letters, we're not saying you can read Greek. Listen, I can read Greek letters. I don't have a problem reading Greek letters. I can go in here and I can phonically pronounce this sentence to you. Okay, I'm going to do something. It's clumsy when I do so. I'm going to make even errors in the case. I'm going to go, I think this word is this. Ote, un. And I go, okay, ereste san. So my pronunciation is like a 5-year-old when I go through this. Legai, to. And then you have this. Zimoini, and then Petro, Iesos, and then you have Zimon, and then you have Ionna. So my pronunciation is not going to be fantastic. My comprehension, to be frank, is not thorough. It's limited. How many of these words did I recognize by looking at it? I can go, okay, oteon, therefore, and then he goes, okay, this next word, dine. I would not know that was dine without looking at it. Okay, said to Simon Peter, the Jesus, Simon, son of Jonah. That much I can read just by looking at it, okay? Agape, do you love? And this is the word me, okay? I got that much I got. More than I would have to double check that. I wouldn't know that. These, I know this word, tonton is these. I know that one. So there were maybe a third of the words I can visually recognize. 2/3, no. So know that we're not talking about reading Greek. You learn the letters to remove some of the intimidation factor, make it easier. We're not into the scope of learning the Greek language. If you want to learn Greek, God bless you. 100% would encourage that, but know that that is a process of years. You are 2, 3, 4 years dedicated to really learn the Greek language. That's not what we're trying to do. What we want you to do is be able to know how to use the tools so you can go here and go, yes, hopefully familiarize yourself with the letters so that it's less intimidating. But you're really down here going Strong's numbers. I'm going down and I can either hover, because you can get it by hovering, by the way. I can hover over here. If I'm comfortable up here, I can hover over them. And if I click on any one word, it brings up for me all the information I need. Strong's numbers gives me the grammatic breakdown. It gives me what we call the parsing of the word, all that's there for me. So I can go through and break it down, or I can go down here in this section down below where it's listed for me in the interlinear with the two English and Greek side by side, and I can look at it again, get my parsing, which we'll talk more about momentarily. Don't worry about the parsing yet. We haven't gone there yet, but it's nice to get the parsing. But the Strong's numbers, which is all we're talking about right now, I can look at my Strong's to get my definitions. What does me mean? It means me. It's pretty straightforward. That was an easy one. So that's how it's working, Joe Mellis, is you're using the tools to be able to get into the Greek. You're not learning Greek. You're learning to use the tools so that you can open up the Greek, but it's the tools doing the work for you. You are not learning the Greek language.
It means that the Blue Letter Bible is very, can help us. Is that the best tool we can use?
Blue Letter is your friend. Remember, if you don't have Blue Letter, this is what you need. This is about 25 kilos worth of paper. This is the alternative to Blue Letter Bible. You want Blue Letter. It can be done without Blue Letter. Blue Letter is much better. These, first of all, these are not cheap. These things run about, I don't know, probably the better part of, if you get them used, you might pick up one for 1,000 or 1,500 pesos a piece. They're not cheap. Brand new, these things go for the better part of between 2,000 to 4,000 pesos each. These books are not cheap. These are I picked them up over years, over 20 years worth of Bible studies. I picked these things up over the years. But I got to be honest, I'm grateful I don't have to use them because they're huge and they take a lot of time. They're very intensive, and you have to be able to actually read the original language. You have to read Greek, you have to read Hebrew to use those tools. Versus Blue Letter Bible, you don't have to. Blue Letter does all that work for you. Very huge help. This is what brings the necessity of how deep we have to go down to a much more achievable level. Much simpler because of Blue Letter Bible. I go in, I open up my little tools, I click on my interlinear, everything's right there for me. I want to know what a word is, click on a Strong's number. Instantly my definition, my lexicon opens up. Right there for me, it gives me the meaning of that word. I don't have to guess, I don't have to question it, I'm told it. And I don't even have to read the Hebrew or the Greek to get it, it gives it for me. That's the first and most critical use that we have here. We get into this interlinear, lexicon, Strong's numbers. It makes our life easy as it pertains to getting the meaning. What word? Remember we talked about how Greek grammar is so verbose, 5 million words. Blue Letter Bible makes that easy for us to define. Click on a Strong's number.
You have a different view than mine, interlinear. Bible letter Bible, Pastor Dave.
How is it different? What does yours look like? What Bible translation do you have up primarily?
New King James Version. I don't have the ones that you have, the two, like all the verses in one page. I have this one right now, but the one previously, like even your tabs, interlinear Bibles, cross references, those colored ones on top, I don't have those.
They're not appearing in Blue Letter Bible for you?
Yeah, just a different format. But I think I still have it when I drill down, but not the way yours looks like.
It might be some default that's set up. You can actually, if you ever need to modify Blue Letter Bible, if you log in, you can make modifications to it. Notice that you can log in over here. Part of your login, you can go to settings.
Yeah, that view. I don't have that view.
It might be are you using a tablet or are you using a laptop? What are you using?
I tried it on my phone and I tried it on my iPad and I still don't get it.
It might be because it's the iPad. It might be because it's not a desktop.
Okay, so it has to be on a desktop.
You can use it either way, but it gives you more options if you were on the desktop. It's certainly more powerful on the desktop.
It's better.
Better on the desktop. Any other questions before we move on a bit? Pretty good? Just as a count, give this to you. You can go Strong's numbers again. There are 8,674 Hebrew words in the Strong's Old Testament. There's 5,624 Greek root words. Remember, root words is the key. Root is the absolute important thing. We're talking about root words, and we'll deal with that more as we get into the grammar. In the New Testament, always they allow us to look up without having to read the Greek or Hebrew, which is amazing. Key note, not every word is assigned a number, only root words. And we'll get back in that. Root words is the key thing we need to talk about. But this is what Strong's numbers gives to you. And that's what we want to get into, is that knowing simply how to be able to look up the definitions. Strong's numbers is what does that. Now, if you're all good with that, we're going to move on into our grammar. This is where I apologize ahead of time. There may be some bleeding in your nose. That's going to happen. It's required. But are you good with Strong's? You're relatively confident with how Strong's works? Open up, Blue Letter Bible, interlinear, click that tab, look at your Strong's numbers, click on the Strong's numbers, you get a definition. You will know the meaning of your Hebrew or Greek word. Good? Grammar. Before we get into Greek grammar, we need to discuss English grammar. Because I'm not going to assume that you remember your grammar from, however many years ago that you were, in high school and some of you college and were doing grammar courses. You've probably forgotten most of that by this point, as we tend to do. So we're going to go with a little bit of review, take a moment to talk about parts of speech in general. This is not specific to Greek. This is just how language in general works. Okay. Who wants to tell me, and I'm looking for interaction on this because it helps me know that you're paying attention. Who wants to tell me, and you can read it on your screen if you want help, what's a verb?
Action word.
It is the action of the sentence. So if I were to use an example of, the boy ran to the store, what word would be the verb?
Ran.
Ran, the action of the sentence. So just know that verbs are very important in sentences. The reason why verbs are very important is they tell us what something is doing, what someone is doing. The action of the sentence, that's a verb. That's the same, by the way, in English, Pastilango, Greek, Hebrew, that same grammatic construction. Verbs are in every one of them. Verbs are the action of the sentence. Do you know what a conditional statement is? What's a conditional statement?
If then statements, just reading.
Reading's allowed. It's just good to have the interaction. So a conditional statement is if this, then that. Classic example would be Satan tempting Jesus Christ. If you are the Son of God, then turn these stones into bread. That's a conditional statement. Just a bit of a snapshot. Turns out Greek doesn't have one if statement. It has four. Four different ways that you can actually say that. It's crazy the depth that exists there. It's if and it is so, if and it is not so, if and it might be so, if and I want it to be so. Amazing, Greek. Needless to say, conditional statements. Those are if statements, if then statements. Here's a fun one you probably have forgotten. What's a participle? Anyone?
Well, it said there modifies verbs in a verse.
Not sure, but a
No
lot of times
idea.
I've had grammar. Participles are...
Like the the, the, this, is that the one?
No, they're going to be verbal adjectives is what they typically act as. They're going to be either modifiers of a verb or they can be a verb that acts like an adjective or a noun. So that's what a participle does practically within a sentence. You give me an example within, kind of a fun one, within the Hebrew. You all know Psalm 23, right? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23:1, very famous psalm. The word shepherd, believe it or not, is not a noun. The word shepherd is a verb. It's a participle, meaning it's a verb acting in the place of a noun, but it is not a noun of itself, which is kind of cool because the way it actually reads is the Lord is the one who always shepherds me. Kind of cool. I like that. It's not what he is, it's what he does. That's a participle. So a participle is modifying a main verb, or it is an adjective, an adverbial. Like the way an adjective modifies a noun, a participle can modify a verb or act like a noun or an adjective within a sentence. Kind of cool. Participles are fun. There's a lot of them. They're, by the way, the most common verb.
Like the shepherd's root word is a verb, but then it kind of modifies it into a noun.
It is a verb. It's completely a verb. So it is a verb, but it's acting as a participle, meaning that it's pretending kind of like it's a noun within the sentence, which is why it gets translated in English as a noun. But in the original language, it's not. It's a verb. But it's a participle.
Okay.
So participles are fun. They're kind of a fun. They are the most common form. The most common form of a verb in Greek is a participle, by and large. You find more participles than any other kind of verbs in the New Testament. These are participles. But they are verbs, but they're a verb that modifies either a main verb or acts like an adjective, an adverb, or a noun in the sentence. Prepositions. This one's a good one. Anybody remember the prepositions?
Directional words.
They are directional words, correct. That means like in, out, above, around, through, under, out of. All those words are prepositions. They're preposition. Break it apart into its etymology there. Preposition. It's talking about what's your position in relation to something else. So that's a preposition. It's talking about your geographical location from one thing to another. Are you above it? Are you below it? Are you around it? Are you inside? Are you out? Are you going through? All those are prepositions. They're very important in Greek. Very important in Greek because they're often added to words to add emphasis. Like, I'll give you an example. In the Greek, the word to abide, John 15:4, abide in me and I'll abide in you and you'll bear much fruit. That word abide is the word meno. Meno is the Greek word for abide. But if you add the preposition epi in front of it, epimeno, it means to completely abide. Epi is the preposition upon, to be upon the abiding. If you are hupomeno, you are having patience. You're under. Hupo is under the abiding. So you add prepositions to word to give them more depth and dynamics. Very common. They're used everywhere in the Greek. So prepositions are very, very helpful to know. Needless to say, preposition, all you need to recognize now, don't want to overload you, is that prepositions are just directional words. Verbs, actions, conditions, if statements, participles, modifiers of verbs. Prepositions, directional words. What's an article?
Ada.
It is what makes something specific or generic. Is this a table? If it's a table, it's one of many. If this is the table, it's the one and only one we're referring to. It makes something specific or generic. Those are articles. They're very important, by the way. Very important. You don't think much about them because they're rather simple parts of speech. We wouldn't even tend to pay much attention. But actually, where Bible interpretation comes in, it's really important. Like, you're talking about, is this a law, meaning it's just a rule, or is it the law of Moses? Is this a word, just something that someone was saying, or the word, Jesus Christ? Very different. So that simple article is huge, huge as far as Bible interpretation. It comes in a lot. You do find that very frequently. And then an easy one. What's a noun?
Person, place, or thing.
That's the one doing the action. In fact, if you go back to your grammar days, and I apologize, this probably is causing some pain and maybe some traumatic memories, but go back to your grammar days in high school or college, you'll recall that most sentences, if they're done properly, are built of subject, predicate, or if you're in a longo, predicate, subject. A longo does reverse them, or English reverses them, depends on your opinion. But your subject is your noun. Your predicate is your verb. So it's noun and verbs that make up a sentence. Noun is what's doing the action. The verb is what the action is. In a nutshell, that's your grammar. That is the fundamentals of all grammar. Noun, verb, subject, predicate. That's how sentences are built. Okay? A noun is just a person, a place, or a thing. That's a noun. Okay? What's a proper noun? Subcategory. Any takers on a proper noun?
A word used to substitute for a noun.
Close. That's a pronoun. Proper noun.
Okay. A proper noun.
What's a proper noun?
A specific name for a particular person.
So if I were to say the
Like
man,
also place.
the man is a noun. If I said David, David is a proper noun. Still a noun, but now I've got a proper name. If I said the city, city's a noun. If I said Bacolod, Bacolod is a proper noun. It's a specific city, a specific name, a specific title. That's a proper noun. So when you see a specific person, place, or thing, like given a title, then that's a proper noun. Now, a key one, what's a pronoun?
That is a word used to substitute for a noun.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
Pronoun.
Let me see if I can hurt you. And again, this is to anybody. Can you give me an example? Give me 2 or 3 pronouns. What would they be?
He, him, we.
Yes. That's a pronoun. So you're replacing, rather than saying that, David and Jen went to the store, I would say they went to the store. The they is a pronoun that replaced the proper nouns of Dave and Jen. If I said, that Jomel and RR and Gideon and Teresita and Chati and, Raymond went to the store, I can replace that with we. We is an inclusive, kita, inclusive. We went to the store. Without getting into too much detail, you break them down into first, second, and third person, singular and plural is how all pronouns are defined. First person is I, me. Second person is you. Third person is we or they, depending whether it's personal or impersonal. But all that to say, pronouns just replace nouns with a generic substitute. Okay, and then finally, what's an adjective?
It describes the noun.
So is it a couch or is it a blue couch? Well, if it's a blue couch,
Blue is the
blue
adjective.
is the adjective. Is it a person or an old person?
Old.
Old becomes the adjective. Something
Yes.
that describes a noun, gives further detail, becomes an adjective in the sentence. Now, why do we care about all this? Because if you don't know how it works in English, you're for sure not going to know how it works in Greek. So it is very important for us, before we get into grammar, to understand how grammar works. So we have to know what a verb is. Verb and nouns are the fundamentals. You need to know your verbs and nouns. We need to know what a verb is. What is a noun? To understand what a preposition, what an article, what an adjective, what a pronoun, what these are, because by knowing them in English, we're going to be able to look at them in Greek. So we do need to know our parts of speech. I apologize. Again, probably some traumatic memories popping back up from high school days or college days, stuff you haven't looked at in years. If it's any consolation, let me give you this. I failed most of my high school years. I just didn't fail. I just didn't go to high school. I managed to skip most of high school. Story for a different day. But I basically never took grammar in high school. I missed 3 years of my high school life because of some choices I made. All that to say, I am the last person who should have any kind of grasp of grammar. I never took grammar. I avoided it. It's not overwhelming. It's just a bit of refreshing. We know how grammar works naturally because we use it every day. It's just stopping and slowing down and going, how does my grammar work? I know that I have action statements in my sentence. I just don't ever think about it. I know I have nouns in my sentence. I just don't think about it. I don't necessarily qualify them and say, hey, here's my noun, here's my verb. It's just slowing down so we remember how our language works, because it's no different. Listen to English, kung sa Ilonggo, kung Greek, kung sa Hebrew, among sila tanan, they all have the same basic fundamental grammar. The grammar doesn't change. The rules change. Some of the nuances, the details change, but the fundamental grammar is the same. You have verbs, you have nouns, you have conditions, you have participles, prepositions, you have articles. That's all the same regardless of your language. Those truths do not change. And so what we get into is, now that we know how language works, we're going to look at how we figure that out in the Greek. How do we break down a verb, a condition, a preposition, an article, a noun, an adjective in the Greek language, and why would we want to? That's what we're dealing with next. I still got everybody with me? We're all hanging in there? Not too bad so far?
Yes.
All right. Here we go. Brace yourself, because we're going to jump into getting into our Greek grammar. As we stated, review vocabulary you find just by getting into your Strong's numbers. We saw John 21:15. Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? That word love was agapas. More than these. He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I phileo you. So recall vocabulary is just your Strong's numbers. It's pretty straightforward. Remember that Greek language, when you get into the grammar, is inflected. What is inflected? I repeat these terms because familiarity is going to be the key for you to hold on to them. If I say them once, you will not remember them. The more often I say them, the more familiar, more comfortable you will get with them. Inflected means that the definition of a word, the meaning of a word in the sentence, is not in Greek defined by its sentence position, but by its spelling. Go back to the English, the boy is ugly and the girl is pretty. Who's ugly?
The girl.
In the English,
Oh, in the English, the boy.
the boy. The girl becomes pretty. How do you know that? Order of the words. Because the word, the adjective, that's an adjective, ugly follows the noun, boy's a noun, and therefore belongs together. The word pretty, the adjective pretty, follows the noun girl, therefore the girl is pretty. But when you get into Greek, you have inflection. Inflection just means variation on spelling that actually gives a different definition. If I say that the noun boy is masculine, and that the adjective pretty is masculine, and that the noun girl is feminine, and that the adjective ugly is feminine, notice the M and the F's that I put next to those nouns and adjectives, it changes the meaning of the sentence, even though the order stays the same. The order of the sentence is identical, the meaning flips because of your inflection. That's how Greek works. Not sentence order, but the inflection of the spelling of the words. This is Greek grammar. This is what we want to get into. So, that being said, we're going to deal first and foremost, this is what we're going to tackle now for the next 20 minutes. We're going to give a little introduction. We're not going to get too far into this. For the next 20 minutes, we're going to start talking about the first section of our parts of speech, which is verbs. How do you break down a verb? All Greek verbs have 3 parts to them. They have tense, voice, mood. Okay, let me slow this down to make sure that you're grasping this. So, talking about our Greek verbs. This is grammar. We're dealing now with Greek grammar. We're dealing with verbs. What's a verb? Not all at once. What part of speech is a verb? What's a verb doing?
Action.
Action of the words. This is the action of the sentence. When we're looking at the action of a sentence in the Greek, every single Greek verb, this is all of them, by the way. This is not a couple, this is not a few, this is all of them. All of them have these 3 parts to them, given by their inflection, according to their spelling. It'll have tense, voice, and mood. What does that mean? Tense. When does the action occur? Voice. Who is performing the action? Mood. How is the action being performed? It's telling you the when, the who, and the how. And get this, this is all just inside the verb. There's no additional words. This is baked into, already cooked into, already a part of every single Greek verb. Talk about depth. This is where Greek gets intense. What are the tenses? There are 6 of them. Present, aorist, perfect, imperfect, future, pluperfect. What are the voices? 3 of them, active, middle, passive. What are the moods? There's 4 of them, indicative, imperative, subjunctive, and optative. At this point, the blood freely flows. I get it. You're going, none of those make any sense to me. I understand. Here's what I need you to know for Greek verbs. And this is where we bring it down, make it simple. This is where we go. I think I can handle this. If you want to know Greek verbs, break apart Greek verbs, all you have to do is memorize. It is memorization. 13 words. For if you count these up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenses, 7, 8, 9, 3 voices, 10, 11, 12, 13, 4 moods. 13 in all. If you can remember the definition of 13 words, you can look at any Greek verb and know and understand its tense, voice, and mood. When it happened, who's doing the action, and how it's being done. That's an overview, snapshot. 13 words gives you voice, tense, and mood, Greek verbs. What are they? Let's break them down. We're not going to go further than this today. In fact, I'm going to get all the way through it. Just the first of those categories, the tense. We want to talk about the tense of a Greek verb. Now, before I get into the Greek, let's talk about tense in English. So you understand for sure how this works. Amo man sa Ilonggo, pwede man sa Ilonggo. We can do it Ilonggo as well. If I tell you that I am going to the store, what tense is that?
Present, Pastor.
Liwat?
Present tense.
So if I am going, have I gone yet?
Present,
Not yet.
Pastor.
It's future.
Press. Future.
Am going, wala pa halin ko. Ada pa kao sa balay. I am going, dugay-dugay, future, to the store. If I'm going to the store, what is that?
Present.
Present. Subong na lang. If I went to the store, what is that?
Past.
Past tense.
So am going, future, going, present, went, past. So you have that same idea of past, present, future. Amo mo sa Ilonggo. If I say, makato ko sa Tiangge, when am I going to go?
Future.
Future. Nakato ko sa Tiangge.
Present.
The past tense is
Naglakat.
naglakat sa Tiangge.
Past.
Past. You have the same thing, Ilonggo, English, Amoman, you have this idea of when does an action take place. How do you define? Notice this. How did you change from one to the other? How did you go from past, present, or future? What changed in English and Ilonggo? Spelling. How the root word, be it lakat or going, how that's spelled changes, and that changes your tense. It's the same in Greek. But Greek doesn't just have 3, which, by the way, English and Ilonggo have more than 3 as well. I've always laughed at that because it's in Ilonggo. I wish someone could describe this to me. They still can't. Is it himaon or mahimo? Which is which? Why would you go one versus the other? Why is one of them mahima, one's himaon?
Mahimo, I think, is future. Himoon is it. I don't know.
Right?
Mahimo. Mahimo is like I'm gonna do it. Himoon is same thing.
Right?
You know?
so why would you have one? By the way, I've never found some. You speak Ilonggo and you just know which is which to use. That's one of the ones in Ilonggo. I've never been able to find someone who's actually adequately been able to explain to me that there's 2 different conjugations of verbs in Ilonggo. 2 different ways you can conjugate a verb. One of them is by adding the ma, na, nag. That's one way to conjugate. The other one is the on. There's more than one way to conjugate verbs in Ilonggo. That's a subject for a different day. Just know that you do conjugate verbs, and that tells you whether it's past, present, or future. That's all I want you to get at this point. Know that it's the same in Greek. But Greek doesn't have past, present, future. It has 6 tenses. And they are somewhat intricate. There's nuance to every one of them. Your first tense in the Greek, very straightforward. Again, if you're wondering how you figure this out, let me show you this so that you can see it so it's not a mystery to you. If I'm going in and I say, okay, Jesus said to them, children, have you any food? They answered him, no. What's the verb in that sentence? What is Jesus doing?
Speaking. Jesus is speaking.
He's speaking. So said is our verb. So if I go to the word said, okay, which turns out the very first word here is this word lego, okay? Notice that parts of speech. It is a verb, present, active, indicative. Notice all are there for me. I've got voice, tense, mood. I got all 3 guys listed there for me. So that's how you figure that out. It's by spelling that you know this. The reason why this is the word, present, active, indicative, saying, is because of how it's spelled. Notice the root word is lego, but it's inflected. It's spelled as legai. That makes it a present active indicative, but all that's to be said. It's a present tense verb. We know that by clicking on the Strong's numbers. It gives you that inflection. When you go there, present tense, what is present tense? Continuous, habitual action. Often reflects a lifestyle. Let me repeat that because this is huge. If a verb is in the present tense, it is constant. As long as now is now, you are present tense. It's constantly doing something. And depending on the context, it can speak of your habit or even reflect your lifestyle. Okay, 1 Peter 1:5. Here's a verse for you. Who are protected, present, by the power of God through faith for salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. How often are we protected?
Continually. Always.
Continually, always. You can even call it a habitual action. God is always protecting us. Now that's important because that speaks volumes. We're not occasionally protected. It's not once in a while God's watching over us. No, we are constantly being protected by the Lord. That's that present tense. I'll give you another example. This is in a negative context, but it's very descriptive. 1 John 3:9. Whoever has been born of God does not sin. What's the verb in that statement? There's two actually, but...
Does not, Pastor?
Aliwat, go ahead.
Does not.
Does not. Well, does not is the, if you will, the qualifier. The verb itself is sin. Does not sin. That statement would be the totality of the actual verb of that. Does not sin. So this is the interesting thing. This word does not sin, or does not there, goes into this idea of poiai, to make, does not make sin. It is a present tense verb. This is what's important. If you're trying to interpret this, and this is one of the more challenging verses, by the way, in the New Testament to qualify and interpret. For notice it says, if you've been born of God means you are saved. Because unless you are born of God, you don't get to go to heaven. So if you have been born of God, everybody, whosoever, by the way, the word in the Greek is the word pas, means everybody. Anyone, everyone who is born of God, meaning everyone who is saved, okay, does not sin. Question, do you sin? Yes. Do all of us sin?
Yes.
Yes. Does that mean we're not born of God? Does that mean we're not saved? That's why this becomes a very difficult verse to interpret, very difficult verse to handle. Because this seems to suggest that if we are born of God, then we should not be sinning. Therefore, if we are sinning, we must not be born of God. Ooh, that's scary. So what does that mean? Your key answer comes in the present tense. Because remember, present tense means what? Habitual action or a lifestyle. So the thought is, if you are continually sinning, meaning a habitual sin, a lifestyle of sin, are you saved? Probably not. Probably not. This is not I make a mistake. This is not I mess up. This is not I'm struggling. This is my definition. I'm defined by fill in the blank, whatever sin you want. I am a gambler. I am a drunkard. I am an adulterer. I am a fornicator. Whatever sin you want to pick, take your gun on a line, whatever it is. If that is our definition, if we are doing that, not convicted by it, continually living in it, are we saved? Probably not. That's what that verse is saying. It's not talking about I struggle, I make mistakes, I stumble. No, that's not what's in sight because it's present tense. It's the present tense that answers and interprets this verse for us. Huge. Constant, continual action. I'll give you another example. I don't know if I put it here. I didn't, I don't think. No. Another example of this would be when we're called to believe. When we believe in Jesus Christ, we are saved. Depending, not always, but depending, that verse can be in the present tense, meaning How are we saved? By a single action or by continual faith? If it's present tense, what's your answer? If I say you must believe in Jesus to be saved, present tense, when do you have to believe? Continually. Constant action. That present tense is huge because it speaks of ongoing, continual, non-stop action. Habitual, defining, life-defining sometimes actions. Present, constant. As long as it's now that verb is taking place. So know the present tense, constant action. Move on into what is probably the most common, but one of the trickiest to understand, is called the aorist tense. This is the second of your 6 tenses. Remember, we told you there are 6 tenses that we're going to be going over. 6 key tenses in the Greek we want to look at. Present is the first, aorist is the second. What is the aorist tense? It's most often translated as past tense, but it simply means once. It's a one-time action. This occurred once. As long as you read aorist, something happened a single time. Okay? Example. 1 Peter 1:3. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who according to his great mercy has caused us to be born again. The verb there is the verb born again. Okay? To a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. That word born again, that verb is in the aorist tense. How often are we born again?
Just once.
Once. It's a single action, which makes kind of sense, by the way. You don't get born again and over again. You don't walk forward every Sunday, raise your hand and say the sinner's prayer and continue to get born again. There's no born again. It doesn't happen that way. You're born again once. It's a singular action. We know that. We can be sure of that. That's not an opinion. That's clearly defined in the Greek through the aorist tense. I'll give you a second example. This is a fun one. Acts 2:4. This is the day of Pentecost. They were all filled with the Holy Spirit. Your verb in that statement is we're filled. We're all filled. This is that phrase in the English is your verb there in the Greek. It's actually all stated, by the way, in a single word. That phrase in English is one word in the Greek. Okay, it's this word eplesthesan. This eplesthesan is in the aorist tense. So how many times were they filled?
Once.
Here's the key thing. Just for that moment. It doesn't mean they were filled and there was any residual effect. They weren't filled and then from then on, that's a different tense. This is just they were filled on that day for that moment. Which is why every time you come around, and it happens again and again, the church would pray, the people were filled. The Spirit would move, the people were filled. Same people were filled multiple times throughout the book of Acts. Because being filled with the Spirit is not something that happens once and for all. It happens whenever we need it. It is a move of the Lord in the moment. That is the filling of the Spirit, which is huge, by the way, theologically. Hey, have you been filled with the Spirit? We say that as if it's like this one-time event. Were you ever filled with the Spirit? Yes, back in the year 1987, I was filled with the Holy Spirit. As if somehow that ever since then the Spirit's been overflowing me. No. That's not how the Spirit works. Being filled with the Spirit is in the moment for the moment. If God's doing a work in our life, if we're sharing the gospel, if we're teaching a Bible study, if we're giving good counsel to someone and you feel that power of the Spirit come upon you, yes, you're being filled with the Spirit for that moment. Does that mean you have it tomorrow? Not necessarily. We need to be constantly going back to be filled up with the Spirit. Why do we know that? How do we know that? Because being filled with the Spirit is in the aorist tense. It's a one-time action. So present tense, continual action. Aorist tense, one-time action. Okay? Move on to one more, and we're going to finish up with this one. We're only getting through the first 3. We're not going to deal with the last 3 this morning. We just don't want to rush it for the time. But I'll give you one more, and it's a fun one. So you've got present tense, continual action. You've got aorist tense, singular, one-time action. Then you've got the perfect tense. What is the perfect tense? An action in the past that has continuing results into the present and into the future. So, it happened in the past. But the results of it, how it affects us, continues through the present into the future. Think of a line with a dot that's somewhere behind us and it goes all the way to infinity in front of us. That's the perfect tense. Continuous results from an action that happened previously. That's perfect. 1 Peter 1:4. Here's your example. To obtain an inheritance which is imperishable, undefiled, and will not fade away, reserved. There's your verb. Something is reserved for us. An inheritance, there's our key noun, is the inheritance, is reserved for us where? In heaven. When? When was this inherited reserved for us? Perfect tense. Kliwat?
Same daw, but sabi sa future, Pastor, reserved today, pero you will obtain that in the future.
Correct. It's reserved either today or even sa God. It can be in the past. Pwede subong, you can sit there and go, I put my faith in Jesus. I now have an inheritance. Does that mean I've received my inheritance? No. No, I have not received it yet, but it's reserved for me. The moment I put my faith in Jesus, whether it was yesterday, 10 years ago, whether it's going to be, earlier this morning, whenever I put my faith in Jesus, boom, the reservation happened. It was in the past. It's reserved. But the results of it are going to come later on, future. That's perfect tense. Event in the past, results in the future. Let me give you my favorite verse for this. By far favorite verse for this. Luke 7:48. Set your context, set your scene. You are the woman who comes to the house of Simon the Pharisee. Jesus is having breakfast. A woman of ill repute. She's probably a prostitute or something. And maybe Mary Magdalene, we're not sure. She comes in, she falls down at the feet of Jesus. She's weeping. She wipes his feet with her tears, her hair, and some expensive oil. Simon's offended because he knows who the woman is. He goes, if this Jesus were a prophet, he would know what kind of woman touches him. And Jesus makes the famous statement, Simon, who's going to love more? The one who's forgiven a lot or a little? Of course, the answer is the one who's forgiven much loves more. Jesus points out, I came in, you didn't wipe my feet, you didn't anoint my head, and this woman has wiped my feet with her tears and has anointed my feet with oil. So she who's been forgiven much loves much. And he turns to the woman, Luke 7:48, and says to her, your sins are forgiven. Whoa. Key verb, forgiven. This word is the word afayuntai. So afayuntai, is the word forgiven. It is in the perfect tense. What does that mean? If it's been forgiven perfect tense, how do you interpret that? When was she forgiven?
Continually.
In the past,
In the past, but the results are
Oh, perfect.
now and then to the future.
all the way in the future. So get the idea here. This is amazing. This is perfect tense. He's saying, woman, every sin you have ever committed, sa nagdigad, asa subong, asa sa katapusan, all the way in the future, napatawad na lang. Every sin, all sins have just been taken away from you in a single moment. That's the perfect tense. Same example, by the way, when Jesus was on the cross and he said, tetelestai, it is finished. Tetelestai is perfect tense. He died once, but the results unendingly into the future. Every sin was paid for the moment Jesus died upon the cross. Everything was finished. Completed the work, nothing was left to be done. Perfect tense. It's powerful. And what I'm hoping is you can begin to see this. So we're just scratching the surface at this point, giving you just the first three of these tenses. But you have present, aorist, perfect. Present, continual action. Remember, the tense tells you when. When does the verb take place? Present, now. If it's now, it's happening. Aorist, one time. When, actually doesn't tell you for sure. Context would tell you that. It's just once. Maybe once in the past, once in the present, once in the future. Context is going to tell you. Aorist just tells you it happens once. One time only. Perfect. In the past, but results that go unendingly into the future. That's the perfect tense. The results of the verb are a past tense action with unending results into the future. That's the perfect tense.
Pagpera, kama, data, eta. Oh, F's the Z.
Go back into how do you find that even? I want you to see this. We're going to repeat it over and over again. How would you find that? Click on any verse you want to. Okay? Take your pick. Go back to. Okay? Just John 21:1. Why? Just because it's the first one I see there. Okay? You look for the verb in the sentence. Now, if you're not sure of what a verb is, let me give you a little cheater here from the Blue Letter Bible. Head over to your far right column where you see parsing. Parsing means giving you the grammar. Parsing just means grammar. So in your head program, I see parsing, I think grammar. Notice it tells me the parts of speech. Is this a preposition? This is going to be a pronoun. This is a noun. Ooh, green. I've seen my verb. They're even color-coded for you. Look for the greens. Greens are going to be your verbs. The V in front of it means a verb. If I click on this, instantly it brings up for me, sure enough, it's a verb. What's its tense?
Aorist.
Aorist. And it goes on to
Aorist.
give the voice and the mood, which we haven't talked about yet. Don't worry about those for the time being. But know that it just pops it right up there for you. That's how you find it. Any single verb in the entire New Testament. Click on the word. It'll tell you what its tense is. Instantly. You can say, that's an aorist. That's a present. That's a perfect. I know right away what it is. And if you remember, go back to, all you have to do is memorize 13 words. If you know your 13 words, you can click on that word and know immediately what it means. I know this is an aorist tense. This is a one-time action. In this case, Jesus showed. He showed himself. He appeared one time. That's all that means. This is your Greek grammar as we begin to get into verbs. Step by step, little by little. So, quick review. What did we go over today? We went over Interlinear Bible because that's how you're going to open up your Greek. Click on Tools, Interlinear, your Greek pops up next to your English. Interlinear just means two versions, two translations, two languages. Once you're here, you have two things that are available to you. Remember, we talked about the two major differences between Greek and English, Greek and Ilongo, are your vocabulary and your grammar. Both are here for you. Vocabulary is your Strong's numbers. This is where you access your vocabulary, where you open up your lexicon or your dictionary. It's here in your Strong's numbers. You can look at the meaning of any word. Your grammar is your parsing over here on the right-hand side. This is what breaks down the sentence into its various parts of speech, where you're going to get all of your grammar. In particular, we've started looking at verbs, which are broken down into tense, voice, and mood. Tense, when, voice, who, mood, how. The when, the who, and the how of the verb are all baked into the verb itself. Everybody following so far? Vocabulary, grammar, Strong's numbers, parsing. This is all under your interlinear or your two Bible translations that you click on in any verse of Blue Letter Bible. Every verse has this. Every verse has your Strong's numbers. Every verse has your parsing. Strong's is your vocabulary. Parsing is your grammar. And we're starting to tackle the verbs. We're just beginning. Start to tackle verbs. You've done 3 now of the 6 tenses. That's all we've learned so far. Good?
Good.
Yes, Pastor Dave.
Overwhelmed, or are you guys doing okay?
Nosebleed.
Surviving.
Nosebleed.
Pastor, ang colors and verb
Buhay
is
pa man.
green.
The color, this is what they do this for you, and I love this, B-Boy, because it does make it very easy. They do color coordinate your parsing for you in Blue Letter Bible. So you have this color variation to help get the different parts of speech. Your prepositions are going to be this kind of a bit of a muted tone of green. Your pronouns, which are actually going to be, you also get into your articles on this, can be similar, but your pronouns are going to be this like purple color. Your nouns are this orangish color. Your verbs are like a bright green color. Okay. You get down into here, you've got your pronouns are going to be like this dark purple. You have your adverbs
I
are
don't
going
have
to be this like pinkish color. Your articles, your or the, are going to be this bright pink color. So they give you this intentional color coordination, but they'll also give you, by the way, a little letter to start it out with. If you look down your parsing section here, sometimes it's like a preposition, they just tell you it's a preposition. An adverb, they just tell you it's an adverb. A conjunction, they just tell you a conjunction. They just give you an abbreviated version of it. If you hover it over, though, they'll give you the same thing. I'll tell you, notice I hover over, it says conjunction, meaning it's a connecting word. But under most of them, like you get into these, you have like the V is before your verb, the N starts out your nouns, they happen there for you. The D gives you demonstrative pronouns, which is just a pronoun, okay, is before the D. You have your T stands before your articles, because it's a definite article. You just put a T as your notation, your letter there, that you can get very comfortable with after some usage, being able to see it. But the colors are there to also help, yes. So you have colors, you have letters to help give you the parts of speech breakdown, but you can also hover over it and it gives it to you, or you can click on it and it'll actually bring up a little window with all the information given to you. So they give it to you in multiple ways.
Nominative, singular, masculine.
Don't worry about the distinctions right now. We have not gotten into all that. Like all we've talked about, all we've gotten into, don't worry about the rest for the moment. We'll get into that. Today you've just begun to tackle verbs. Verbs that you need 13 words to remember to understand them. But if you know those 13 words, you can look at this tense, voice, and mood, and it'll make perfect sense to you. Tense, aorist, singular action. And then there's also a voice in the mood, which we haven't talked about yet, so don't worry about those. This is your grammar on the far right column. This is your vocabulary under Strong's numbers. The two things that are different in Greek is vocabulary and grammar. All of this is given to you in a nice little layout, nice little chart here in Blue Letter Bible under your interlinear. Good?
Pastor.
All right. Homework. Because there's got to be some homework. Of course there's homework. Again, your discretion. Do it, don't do it. Up to you. But mind you, you will be far more blessed if you do than you don't. Go ahead and take the next section to do a theme and an outline, because we want to continue reminding ourselves about our OIA, observation, interpretation, application. Your next section is going to be Acts chapter 20, verses 15 through 36. It's Paul giving his counsel to Miletus. In fact, I'm not going to have you do the whole thing because it's too long. I don't want you spending too much time on that. So let's go to Acts 20. I'm going to give you, let's see how far I want you to go. Let's do 15. Sorry. Beginning of verse 17. You're going to start in verse 17. You're going to go from verse 17 down to verse 24. Just deal with that first section. Because it's quite a long section and I don't want you to go too far into it. It means your outline will probably be very simple. Your theme will be pretty straightforward. Again, one observation, one interpretation, one application. Just do one. I want you to practice, but I don't want you to spend a whole lot of time on it. I want to keep it fresh in your mind how to do the OIA, but there's some other things for you to do this week, so I don't want you to spend a whole lot of time there. So just keep it fresh, but don't focus on that. I would encourage you on your Greek letters. 24 of them, again, 10 minutes. You take 10 minutes, you write it down, you say it out loud, and you do that 3 times. Take you 10 minutes to write those letters 3 times. So you take your, alpha, write alpha 3 times. Lowercase, don't worry about the uppercase, just do lowercase. Alpha 3 times and write it in lowercase. Beta 3 times in lowercase. You do the gamma 3 times in lowercase, the delta 3 times in lowercase. Just go ahead, right? Just for the first day, just write them all in lowercase. Second day, do the same thing. Third day, do the same thing. Come to the 4th day, try to see how many you can do by memory. What you can't do by memory, go back and just look at it, write it down. And start to build your memorization of the Greek alphabet. And that's as much as I want you to do this week. That's it. Don't worry about your grammar yet. We'll deal more with that as we get a little further. I will have some grammar assignments for you, but not yet. Don't deal with the grammar yet. We'll build on that before we have you do some assignments in it. So for this week, it's just Acts 20, 17 through 24. Give me theme, outline, 1 observation, 1 interpretation, 1 application. And then I encourage you, do your 24 letters of the Greek alphabet. Write the lowercase letters 3 times per day, all 24 of them, and see how many you can start to build on as you start to memorize. So hopefully by the end of the first week, you may have half of them memorized. Questions? And I'll note this all in the chat group. I'll put it all down for you, what the homework is. Good? Let's pray. Get you out of here. Lord, we just thank you for this morning. Lord, we thank you again for the opportunity to spend some time in your word, Lord, as we begin to ease our way into the Greek. Nothing too quick, nothing too crazy. Slowly begin moving in, Lord, as we want to open up that door, looking at the vocabulary, looking at the grammar, Lord, that we can better comprehend what's taking place there in the original, because we understand there is a depth there that just cannot be translated. It's not that it's not a good translation, it's a limitation of languages. English, Elango, no language can handle all that's there in the original. And so we want to use the tools that you've provided for us, amazing tools, free tools, to better comprehend these things, that we would be better students of your word as we desire to rightfully interpret, Lord, the words that are truth. And so, Lord, we give this time to you, give our study to you. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.